Hi there. Welcome to the CISSP Objective 4.1.16, and this particular objective is so very important from the exam perspective. This is software defined network. There is more and more emphasis on this uh, in the particular April changes, right? So it makes all the sense to go and slice and dice through the concept and talk more and more about SDN, software defined networking, right? Now, when we say software defined networking, just a basic concept that this is the technology which is ruling the world right now, and many companies are going with SDN thing. It's the buzzword of the market nowadays. Let's go and dive deeper into this entire thing, and with that, when we talk about questions, I am also obviously going to answer them as well for your clarification. With that said, first question on your screen. Okay, so let's see this particular question, and it say SDN architecture inherently enhances network security. Inherently, right? First, I think it makes sense for us to talk a little bit on the SDN as well. So, in a traditional router, what happens is there are three planes. The below one is called as data plane, which is responsible for all data forwarding, stopping, and all those kind of routing and all those kind of stuff. Then there is a software layer which is kind of an intelligent layer, which is called as a control layer as well, which actually does all the calculation on the router whenever it is able to calculate let's say the routing table and these kind of decisions. So that's your control layer, and the top layer is called as a management layer, right? This is where you can manage the particular device, that is for the as a interface with the administrator, right? Now the thing is, every router in a traditional network does all these control plane activities individually, and if a data packet has to travel through, let's say 100 routers, all processing will happen on the local routers, and because of this there may be latency as well. Also, because the data is going through multiple routers, as I told you, like in the example of link encryption, there will be additional work as well, like encryption, decryption, all those kind of stuff also available. So that adds more complexity, more insecurity, and more latency to the entire stuff. We want to get rid of it. We want a better solution than this. So the new solution which has come up is called as SDN, in which along with the management plane, we also pick up the control plane, and instead of getting this glued up with the data link layer, that means the hardware level, we are going to make it central. So what will happen in SDN now? All this entire management plane plus control plane will be in the form of a central software, mostly supported on a cloud service, in case you want, right? They have all the different models which you can use, and then it is only the data plane which actually is doing all the work for you on ground. So all the management plane and control plane is now centralized, so better, you have better visibility of the entire network. uh, I think to certain extent, yes, security is also taken care of, and you can also speed the you can speed up things, latency is reduced, and that is why people are going with SDN as on today. There are most of the player like Cisco, Fortinet, all these players, Checkpoint, all these players are into this particular market. And another important thing is, what is the advantage for the organization is they can also have some vendor neutral devices, because these data plane devices which are there on the ground, they are just simply dump device. They don't have to do any calculation there. You can also use any device. You can also be vendor neutral as well, even to the extent that you can use some software driven devices which you use here, like computers, right? They do this particular functionality of the data plane. So that way we are able to do a very good work, really a good work, to make sure that you are able to take care of it. Now, by the design itself, it makes sense, it to certain extent it makes sense that we are able to increase security also, because your visibility of the network has increased. But saying this as a universal statement may not be right. It says inherently enhances network security. See, I tell you why this is not inherently secure, because this software, the central software, whenever the central software has to do the communication with the devices, right, it has to be through some API. Data is always traveling between these two, right? Data is being managed on the and these kind of devices. What if something goes bad here? What if there is a protocol problem or a security problem or an infrastructure problem for the central SDN controller kind of unit? So you cannot say it is inherently secure. That way there is still some thing. If the configuration is not good, if the infrastructure is not better, availability can be impacted, confidentiality can be impacted, even integrity can be a problem, configuration integrity can be a problem, right? And based on that, right, I'm not happy with this inherent thing. Otherwise, yes, SDN is a better solution, I completely agree. Based on that, I am going to tag this particular statement as a false one. We have critically analyzed SDN, is security good and bad and everything. I hope this makes sense for you. And with that said, let's go to the next question. Okay guys, let's see this question, right? Now we have spoken a lot about SDN, right? In this question it says SDN decouples the management plane from the data plane. Decouples the management plane for the data plane. Can this be completely possible? No. We may have a central software as well, but just in case, you also need to configure this data plane as well. There will be some element of data plane which will still be here, and we call it as the SDN basically not because management plane has been decoupled. It is because of the control plane which has been decoupled, which actually contains all the intelligence of the router. We are now taking it central. So SDN became SDN because the control plane is now not there with the device. It is centralized. That's the core concept. And based on that, I think it is safe to say this is a false statement. Just little bit be keen to read the question and you will get the answer. Let's go to the next one. Great. Let's talk about this question, right? It says SDN, software defined networking, enhance security by centralizing control and simplifying network management, making it easier to enforce security policy uniformly across the network. I think I can't agree more than this statement, because definitely just consider a traditional network where there used to be hundreds of routers, and for managing all of them you have to log in on each and every router individually, right? Just see how troubling that was. Now in this particular case, once the SDN has come, all this control plane has been centralized. You just have to go and configure, do one particular setting, and things are done for you. So simple, right? So that way I think I completely agree with this particular statement, and you must take it as a concept for your CISSP exam. With that said, let's go to the next question. Hey guys, very important aspect in this particular question. So this says one of the primary security concern associated with SDN is the risk of a single point of failure. Yes, as the centralized controller become a critical target for attackers. So that is one of the downside of SDN. Because as you are pulling up all this control plane, all the management plane, and you are taking it centrally, then performance wise, other thing, it is okay. But at the same time, what if your SDN controller itself, that particular entire software itself goes down, or if there is misconfiguration, or if there is no redundancy, or if there is a lack of security control like authentication, MFA is not implemented, all of this. Once the SDN is kind of controlled, then the attacker can control the entire network without a problem, right? So that actually becomes a critical security single point of failure, which is not right. So this particular statement in that particular case is very much true. We can take it as a true statement. With that said, let's go to the next one. Hey guys, very good statement, just a single statement and so much of thought process, right? It says virtualization is not a function of SDN. Now you know what? Entire SDN is dependent on virtualization by itself, because we have pulled up the entire control plane. We are taking it centrally in a particular software that is also hosted on a virtual server on the cloud, and then lot of API thing. We are using a lot of network overlay in this entire thing, a lot of abstraction we use, and then a lot of resources from the hardware we are going to use in this entire thing, just to bring what, just to bring in more flexibility, more scalability, and also resource optimization, right? And that is why you can say SDN is very much dependent on the entire virtualization. I also told you how you can actually go and replace your hardware on the data layer, or you can say on the data plane layer, and replace it with some sort of software as well. So all these traits clearly says that SDN is heavily dependent on virtualization, and this particular statement is definitely a false one. It is definitely, virtualization is definitely a function of SDN. I hope it makes sense for you, and with that we'll go to the next question. Hey guys, now this particular question highlighted the cons of having the SDN, right? It says SDN introduces new security challenges such as controller hijacking and malicious code injection. Very much true. If the configuration is not proper, authentication is not proper, infrastructure security is not there, then this is very much possible that the controller hijacking can happen and an attacker is able to induce some kind of malware injection kind of attack, those kind of stuff, right? Very much possible in case of SDN. So making sure that the proper security hardware baseline and those kind of controls, access control baseline, everything is so important when it comes to SDN, because these are critical for your entire network, right? I think with that said, this particular question can be tagged as true from that perspective. And with that said, I think we have practiced a lot of questions on SDN. I think you like this particular session. If you like, please leave review and those kind of stuff. And I am going to see you in the next section.